It was just another quiet afternoon in a suburban neighborhood in Georgia. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the neatly trimmed lawns. John Miller, a retired firefighter and longtime resident of the block, was sitting on his porch sipping sweet tea when he noticed something unusual. His neighbor, Tamara, a young woman in her third trimester, was walking up the driveway accompanied by a man John had never seen before. Something about the man's behavior didn't sit right with him. Trusting his gut, John stood up. What happened next would surprise the entire neighborhood. John had seen Tamara around for over a year now. They weren't close, but he knew she lived alone, had just moved to the area from out of state, and was expecting her first child. He'd waved to her a few times, exchanged casual hellos. The man walking beside her, though, something about him seemed off. He wasn't helping her with the grocery bags. He didn't smile. He kept looking around like he was making sure no one was watching. John got up, slowly, and walked to the edge of his porch. He wasn't the type to jump to conclusions, but the neighborhood had seen a break-in 2 weeks earlier, and Tamara didn't have any close family nearby, or at least none that John had seen. When the pair disappeared into the house, John pulled out his phone and did something he'd never done before. He called the non-emergency police line. "I'm not saying anything bad is happening," he told the dispatcher, "but my neighbor just got home with a man I don't recognize, and she's heavily pregnant. Something feels off. Can someone just check on things?" The dispatcher assured him a patrol unit would swing by. Meanwhile, John stayed on his porch, eyes fixed on the house across the street. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Just as he started second-guessing himself, Tamara came out the front door, alone. She looked shaken. She was on the phone, pacing. John couldn't hear what she was saying, but he could tell it wasn't good. Moments later, a black and white pulled up, lights flashing silently. That was 3 days ago. Since then, Tamara hasn't been seen. The blinds are drawn. No one answers the door. The man never came back. And John's left wondering if his instinct was right, or if the story is just beginning. The police stayed at Tamara's house for nearly 45 minutes that day. John watched from his window, trying not to look obvious. One officer went inside while the other stayed by the car. At one point, they spoke with Tamara on the porch. She looked upset, her arms folded across her stomach protectively. Eventually, the officer who'd gone inside came back out. He said something to Tamara, handed her what looked like a card, and both officers left. No lights, no sirens, just silence. John didn't sleep well that night. He kept running the scene over in his head. Tamara's face, the tension in her body language, the way the man had walked with her like he belonged there, but didn't. The next morning, he saw her car still parked in the driveway, but no movement, no porch light, no sign of the man. Around noon, a white sedan pulled up. A woman stepped out, older, maybe mid-50s, possibly family. She knocked, waited, then let herself in with a key. John couldn't see much from his angle, but she stayed for only an hour, then left without carrying anything. That was 2 days ago. Yesterday, a package was left on Tamara's doorstep, still there. This morning, John almost walked across the street to check in, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the look on Tamara's face that day. Or maybe it was the feeling that this wasn't over yet. He's not the only one who noticed. Others on the block are starting to whisper. Someone said they heard raised voices the night before the police came. Another neighbor claimed they saw that same strange man sitting in a black SUV 2 streets over just last night, engine idling. Tamara's porch light came on around 2 a.m., then flicked off again. That's the last sign of life anyone's seen. Now John's asking himself the same question over and over. Did he do enough? That evening, just as the sky was fading to orange, John saw movement across the street. It wasn't Tamara. The package that had been sitting untouched for 2 days was gone. John was sure of it. He'd noticed it that morning while watering his front lawn. It had been there then, a plain brown box with no markings, no tape, just sitting on the welcome mat. Now, as he stood with the hose still running, the mat was bare. He scanned the windows. Still no light inside. No sign of Tamara. No sign of the woman who'd visited. No SUV. Just silence. He waited until nightfall and finally made up his mind. He walked across the street, slowly, heart ticking louder with each step. He didn't have a plan, he just wanted to knock, just to see if anyone would answer. He raised his hand, then stopped. There was something on the door, a yellow post-it note. His eyes squinted in the porch light to read the hurried handwriting. Please don't trust him. I'm okay. T. John stood frozen. He stepped back, looking around. Nothing moved on the street. No wind. No sound. Just the distant hum of someone's TV and the soft flicker of porch lights down the block. He pulled out his phone and took a photo of the note. He didn't touch it. He didn't want to mess with anything now. The next morning, the note was gone. No footprints. No car. No one had seen anything. John reported it to the same officer who'd come by before. The officer nodded, took the photo and said, "We'll look into it." But John could tell from his face, they didn't have anything. Or maybe they had too much and didn't know where to start. And now, the black SUV is back, parked farther down the street, windows tinted, engine off, just sitting. No one's gotten out. John keeps watching and waiting, because whatever this is, it's not over. The SUV was still there the next day. Different spot. Same car. John had written down the license plate number the first time he saw it, just in case. He checked it again. Same plate, same small dent above the left tail light. But this time, someone was inside. A silhouette, still, barely visible through the tint, but there. It didn't move for hours, just parked, watching. John debated calling the police again, but what would he say? That a car was parked legally on a public street? That someone inside wasn't doing anything wrong? Yet, instead, he took another photo, time-stamped it, saved it to a folder he'd started in his phone titled Tamara. At 6:37 p.m., the SUV drove off. That night, John was startled by the sound of knocking. Not at his door. Tamara's. 3 sharp knocks, then silence. He looked through the blinds. No one on the porch. No one walking away. He waited a full minute before grabbing his flashlight and stepping outside. He crossed the street slowly, scanning the shadows, checking every corner. The porch was empty, but the door wasn't closed all the way, just slightly ajar. John hesitated, then knocked softly on the frame. "Tamara?" he called out, his voice low. "You okay in there?" No answer. He didn't dare step inside. Instead, he gently pushed the door open a little more. The house was dark, too quiet. Then, from somewhere deep inside, a single sound, a phone ringing. Not loud, muffled, like it was under something, or behind a closed door. It rang 4 times. Stopped. Silence again. John backed away, fast. He was halfway down the driveway when he heard it, a baby's cry. Just one short wail. Then nothing. John backed away from Tamara's front door, his heartbeat loud in his ears. The sound of a baby crying from somewhere inside that dark, silent house had stopped him cold. There were no lights on, no movement. Everything had fallen into that eerie, heavy silence that made the night feel unnatural. He walked quickly back to his porch and called the police. This time, his voice trembled slightly. "I think someone's in her house," he told the dispatcher. "The door was open. I didn't go inside, but I heard a baby cry." The response was quicker than he expected. 3 patrol cars and an ambulance rolled up in less than 10 minutes. No sirens, just flashing red and blue lights washing over the quiet suburban street. John watched from behind his living room blinds, phone still in hand. No one came to ask him questions. Officers entered the house quietly, tactically. A few minutes later, paramedics followed. Lights inside the house flicked on for the first time in nearly a week. He couldn't see much, just shadows moving behind curtains. But after several minutes, a female officer emerged, holding what looked like a bundled cloth in her arms. John couldn't see the child, but there was no mistaking the way she held it. Tamara never came out. John stepped outside to try to speak with someone, but they were busy. One man in plain clothes, maybe a detective, finally approached him. "You were the one who made the call?" he asked. John nodded. "Have you seen anyone going in or out of this house lately, other than the resident?" John hesitated, then recounted everything. The unfamiliar man, the black SUV, the note Tamara had left, the late-night knock, the ringing phone, and the baby's cry. The detective only nodded, offering nothing in return. "If you see that SUV again," he said, "call us. Immediately." Then they left. No arrests, no public statements. Just a strip of yellow tape across Tamara's door the next morning. "Police line. Do not cross." Her house remained silent. No lights, no visitors, no movement. It was as if she had vanished into the walls. John kept waking up early. His coffee got cold in his hands as he sat on the porch, staring across the street at that lifeless house. He kept wondering about that second-floor window, the one where a faint light had flickered on once in the middle of the night. Then, 3 days later, the black SUV returned. Parked farther down the block this time, closer to the corner. More hidden, but John recognized it instantly. Same plates, same dent above the taillight. He didn't call the police this time. Not yet. Instead, he watched, sat completely still. The engine wasn't running. The lights were off, but someone was inside. He waited. Minutes passed. Then, finally, the driver's door opened. A man stepped out, no mask, no rush. He walked with purpose, something bundled in his arm, wrapped in a jacket. John didn't move. He didn't even blink. He just raised his phone and started recording. Something deep inside him told him this man wasn't here to visit. He was here to retrieve something, or cover something up. Whatever was going on, it wasn't over. And John knew he might be the next one pulled in. John didn't sleep that night. He stayed up watching the footage he'd recorded, frame by frame. The man from the SUV hadn't gone into Tamara's house. Instead, he'd walked around the side, disappeared behind the backyard fence for about 3 minutes, and then returned, empty-handed. No rush, no sign of panic, just calm, practiced movement. The police arrived 20 minutes after John finally called them. By then, the SUV was long gone. This time, the officers didn't treat him like just another worried neighbor. They asked to see the video. They took notes. One of them even said, "You might have just helped break something open." 2 days later, they found what the man had buried. Behind Tamara's house, under the edge of a loose garden tile, a rusted tin box was recovered. Inside were a phone, 2 flash drives, and a crumpled sheet of paper with handwritten notes. It was enough. Tamara's name showed up in a sealed case file out of another state, New Jersey. Witness protection. Domestic trafficking ring. The man in the SUV? He wasn't just some ex or old friend. He was one of the few still unaccounted for in an ongoing federal investigation. Tamara had run. She hadn't just moved to Georgia. She'd been relocated. And she was pregnant because she chose to keep something that had been meant to control her. A child, a life, a beginning that wasn't theirs. The night John heard the baby cry, Tamara had already been gone. She'd left the baby behind. Safely, quietly, as planned. The note on the door had been meant for him. Tamara knew someone on the street would notice. She'd chosen John whether he realized it or not. She'd seen his porch light always on, the way he never missed a garbage day, how he once brought her mail over after it was delivered to the wrong house. She had counted on him to notice, and he had. The baby went into protective care. The flash drives, according to the detective who called John later, contained video testimonies. The phone had messages and photos, backup documentation in case she didn't make it out. Tamara is still gone. No one will say where she is, or if she's safe. The house was cleared and quietly sold 6 weeks later. But John keeps a copy of the video file, just in case. Some nights he sits on the porch with his coffee, same as always, and stares across the street. The grass has grown in again. The curtains have changed. A new couple moved in last month. They don't know the story. But John does. And now so do you.